No way are you ever going to find an oral steroid that's better than Anavar.
Warning!
You're watching Dr. Todd Lee TV, where theoretically you could learn a bunch of cool shit.
Greetings, Earthlings! Like, subscribe, and share this video. Share with a friend. Share with enemies. Share with people who think they know everything. Spread it like herpes. Also, speaking of herpes, I am a medical doctor, and I could be your doctor. That only requires you to click the link in the description box. I can order you blood work, I can read the blood work, I can treat any illnesses. It's like an HRT clinic that's a one-man army. Also, I do coaching. Dr. Karina Dodson and I have a coaching business called Apex Coaching. So if you sign up with me, you get coaching, which is nutrition, programming, competition prep, or lifestyle coaching, as well as all the medical stuff. So you have 3 people, 2 doctors in one business.
Greetings, Earthlings. It is I, Todd Lee. I am IFBB Pro, biochemist, and medical doctor, and it is why I feel I am appropriately suited to discuss today's topic on Anabolic University. I was requested to do a video on Turinabol. I don't like doing videos on subjects I don't know anything about, so I don't like doing these exotic anabolic steroids that kind of suck, but I'm doing them anyway. So Turinabol is basically 4-chlorodianabol. There's a hydroxyl group on carbon-17, there's a methyl group on carbon-17, there's a chlorine bound to carbon-4, there's a double bond from between 4 and 5, and there's a double bond between 1 and 2. So it's basically equipoise without an ester, but with a methyl group, which makes it basically dianabol, only it has a chlorine bound to carbon-4. Now, a lot of what the typical morons are going to think is, because it's got a chlorine, but it's dianabol, it's going to work like dianabol. And this is why stupid people shouldn't do steroids, is that that's not how it works, though. That the chlorine basically prevents it from converting into estrogen. It prevents it from converting into DHT. It doesn't really work like on dianabol. It seems to be a very clean, pure anabolic steroid. It's liver toxic, but not as liver toxic as dianabol. The data is confusing about its half-lives. Injectable supposedly has like a 16-hour half-life. Orals typically have about an 8. D-ball typically has like a 4 because it shows up in doping tests. Because for some reason, MMA athletes, they're not the smartest on average when it comes to nutrition or steroids. And they all like this Turinabol bullshit. And it's not like it's a good performance-enhancing drug. It seems to be just a purely anabolic drug. So it's the worst thing you'd want to take in a weight class division because it drives you up the weight class to where you're fighting bigger people, but you're not any better at anything. So now, of course, people who will say, like, I'm an MMA fighter and I've used Turinabol and it was great. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying anabolic steroids aren't better than nothing. I'm saying that Turinabol doesn't make as much sense as, let's say, Anavar. Because Anavar is purely performance. Anavar is perfect in every way. No way are you ever going to find an oral steroid that's better than Anavar. And you're pretty much a moron for using something different because there's a better alternative. It's the same situation I ran into with the nandrolone crowd. There were so many people angry at me because I didn't agree that nandrolone was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And my point wasn't that nandrolone is better than nothing. Of course, if your choices are being natural or being on DECA, use DECA. But there's so many better choices than DECA. Why the fuck would you use it? Whatever your goal is with DECA, there's something better. Whatever your goal is with Tren, there's something better. That don't ever use something that has side effects, because there are plenty of steroids that don't have side effects, that have the same effect you're looking for, but have no side effects. So you'd be a moron to use something that has side effects, but they've already used it, so they get butthurt because I'm calling them a moron. And that's what I truly, from the bottom of my heart, if you can get away with using a drug and not have any side effects, great, good for you, don't listen to me. But I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to the exception. I'm not talking to the outliers. I'm talking to people right up the middle. And the majority of people are going to have side effects with D-ball. The majority of people are going to have side effects with DECA. Majority of people are going to have side effects with Tren. Majority of people will not have side effects with Turinabol. That's why Turinabol is a better alternative, and that it doesn't do anything. It has a strong anabolic androgen receptor binding affinity for an oral, not relative to an injectable, but for an oral, it's got a good binding affinity. It doesn't bind to the progesterone receptor. It doesn't bind to the glucocorticoid receptor. It doesn't convert to estrogen. It doesn't convert to DHT. and it's got almost no androgenic effect. It's so great it could even be used for women, but it's still inferior to Anavar because Anavar has extra properties. Anavar directly burns fat. Anavar directly decreases TBG, which increases T4 to T3 conversion. Anavar is anti-cortisol, it basically inhibits glucocorticoid activity. Anavar is better in every way because it has extra features that are fucking awesome. But so Turinabol is kind of like an oral version of Masteron, where it's just like plain vanilla. It's not even French vanilla. It's just plain vanilla. There's no side effects, and it's anabolic. No side effects. It's anabolic, but it doesn't do anything special. Tren is like moose tracks. Like, it's got so much going on, you have no idea what's going on because there's so much going on. Anavar, it's purely anabolic. It's not androgenic. It's not estrogenic. It's not anti-estrogenic, but it has a bunch of special features. Winstrol is like an extreme version of Anavar. It's got the same special features of Anavar, but it overdoes the anti-cortisol effect, and it's going to hurt your joints, so you won't be able to lift heavy. So if you can't lift heavy, you can't preserve muscle. So it's not very good now, is it? That the strength became a weakness. So a little bit of Winstrol goes a long way. But then you get people who are clever, like, I'll use a little bit of Winstrol and a lot of Anavar, which on paper is smart, but these aren't smart people using it, so they end up fucking themselves. So, like on paper, Superdrol is oral Masteron, but in reality, it's hyper liver toxic. So you can only get away with using 10 of it. So there's always these assholes who are like, Masteron's not anabolic. You're a fucking moron for using 3 grams of Masteron. But they can only use 10 milligrams of Superdrol. So what's more anabolic, 10 milligrams of Superdrol or 3,000 milligrams of Masteron? It's not about how strong is it, milligram for milligram. It's how strong is it relative to how much you can handle total. So if Masteron has an anabolic coefficient of 0.8, it's 80% as anabolic as testosterone. But you can only run 500 milligrams of testosterone before getting side effects. But you can run 3,000 milligrams of Masteron before getting side effects. Then that means that the total anabolic effect of 500 milligrams of testosterone is 500, but the total anabolic effect that you can get away with Masteron is 2,400. So which is a higher number, 500 or 2,400? It's obviously 2,400. So you want to do this right, and you don't want someone to tell you steroids are bad, don't do steroids. You want someone who's going to be like, what you're doing is dumb, and here is why. And this is a smarter way of doing it, and to walk you through it and order the blood work for you and analyze the blood work and explain to you why the blood work is showing this data, and that based on that data, we can analyze it and then make adjustments. I'm your guy. Click a link in the comment section, not the comment section, in the description box. It's a tap link to the link tree. Click the consult option. And the top one, the one with the flashing red lights that's vibrating, that's the one you're supposed to click. So get the consult, talk to me, we'll figure out what you're doing. And, like for instance, there's some dude yesterday I found out he's doing 100 milligrams of Tren Ace a week. That's his cycle. So it goes, and then a whole week of nothing. And then it's like his blood levels of Tren are like an EKG. It's like, it should be a straight line, but instead it's it's not like it goes up and it stays there for 7 days and then drops off. It's not Atlantis. It comes up and then comes down, and then there's a tail that lasts a year. And then they take the total aggregate area under the curve, and then they find out where the mean is, not the median, not the mode, the mean, and the mean is approximately 7 days. But most of that area under the curve, like 80% of that area under the curve, is in the first 4 days. And in order to have a stable level, you have to do daily injections with a long ester. And even if you use Prop, it's still like this. You still have massive mood swings. And every time it goes up, more is converted to estrogen and more is converted to DHT. And then there's other influencers who are supposedly smart who say, oh no, you don't have to do multiple injections a week. And they're doing it for marketing. They're trying to get all the lazy people who only want to do 1 shot a week or 2 shots a week to come to their side. And they're trying to rationalize that 1 shot a week is good enough or 2 shots a week are good enough because they're lazy. That's the only reason. They're lazy. They're lazy and stupid, and they want to stay lazy and stupid. They don't want to do it right. They're not disciplined. They're not dedicated. The reason they're using steroids is because they're lazy. They're not a professional bodybuilder. They're not even a national level bodybuilder. They're not even a state level bodybuilder. They're not a professional athlete at all. They're just regular people who don't want to train hard or eat right. So they use steroids to try to make up for it. But they don't understand that doesn't work. Using steroids without training right doesn't result in more muscle. Using steroids without eating right doesn't result in more muscle or less fat. It just results in the toxic food and lifestyle you live is aggravated. That just like if you live a perfect lifestyle, your body gets better if you use steroids. If you live an imperfect lifestyle, your body gets unhealthy using steroids. Steroids amplify the good things you're doing and they amplify the bad things you're doing. So if you're not perfect with your diet and perfect with your training, you should not be using steroids because they will hurt you.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Fusion Regenerative Therapies, where I am the Director of Human Performance. This is the practice in which I practice medicine. We will be able to order you blood work and read your blood work and help you with therapy as needed based upon the results of your blood work. Please click the link to get a consult with me, and I can help you optimize your performance. Thank you.
And that's why I'm saying that there's safer steroids like Turinabol or like Masteron. They're a little more idiot-proof. It's like, remember when you're a kid and you went bowling and they put those little things, those inner tubes in the gutters? That's what it's like using steroids with things like Masteron and Anavar. You're pretty much idiot or growth hormone. That they're so safe, it's pretty much idiot. You can't fuck it up. Whereas using things like Deca, Tren, any of the nandrolones, Deca, Tren, Ment, you're basically begging for crippling, disfiguring side effects. Or what I found is a lot of guys use testosterone as a primary drug, and they're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to use testosterone. Testosterone is one of the most dangerous drugs when it gets high, because that's where all the side effects come from. Yes, you need to have it as a base. It's like your house is made out of wood and aluminum, right? But your foundation is made out of concrete. You don't make the whole house out of concrete. You make the foundation out of concrete. Then you build the rest of the house, no matter how tall the house is. You make the rest of the house out of wood and aluminum and drywall. It's the same thing. Just because testosterone is great for a base doesn't mean you should try to grow muscle with it. And obviously I've gotten way off topic because this was just supposed to be a Turinabol video, but let's face it, there really isn't much to Turinabol. Turinabol doesn't convert to estrogen. It doesn't convert to DHT. It binds to the androgen receptor very well. It's almost purely anabolic. It doesn't bind to the glucocorticoid receptor. It doesn't bind to the progesterone receptor. It does exactly what you would want an anabolic steroid to do. It grows muscle. It doesn't do special shit, though. It has no special features. So it's like the Fisher-Price oral steroid. That's why the MMA guys probably use it, is they're not experts on food. I mean, if you talk to some of these people, they believe in things like paleo eating and keto eating and non-GMOs. It's like a cultural religion, the way they approach nutrition. It's not like it's based on any logic or science. It's just a bunch of nonsense, like flat earthing or veganism. Like, okay, you like animals. Great, be a vegan. But don't tell me it's healthy. And it's like, well, the studies show that vegans are healthier than regular people. It's like because vegans are health conscious. They're attentive to their diet. If you took someone who is anal and attentive to their diet, who is a carnivore, and compared them to a vegan, they'd probably have equal and opposite health problems. And if you took someone who was anal and attentive to their diet, a balanced, healthy diet, they probably would have all of the strengths of the vegan diet and all the strengths of the carnivore diet and none of the weaknesses. And that's how I present anabolic steroids, is that I talk shit about vegan diets and vegans get mad. You talk shit about nandrolone and nandrolone drug addicts get mad. You talk shit about carnivore diets, the carnivores get mad. You talk shit about Tren, the Tren abusing crackheads who are all cracked out on Tren. I want to kill you. Ah. Like, they're always going to freak out because that's how they are. They're constantly in a state of fight or flight. Whereas if you wanted to be a kind of brains, you would eat some vegetables and some meat, and you'd use safer drugs that had less side effects. You're like, oh, I want to have the anti-cortisol effects of Tren. Okay, testosterone does that. Anadrol does that. Winstrol does that. Anavar does that. Pretty much everything except for Masteron and Primo has an anti-cortisol effect. And probably if you use enough masteron primo, you get an anti-cortisol effect anyway. So you could use safer drugs that accomplish the same drug. It's like, I want to have the uncoupling benefits of tren. Okay. The uncoupling benefits of tren. Clen has that. Well, I don't want to use clen. Why not? Well, I don't want to hurt my heart. It's like, who says clen hurts your heart? This influencer who has no degrees. It's like, so use less. Use 20 milligrams of clen. The benefits of clen way outweigh the risks. Have you had your heart tested? What's your ejection fraction? What's that? So you're concerned about your heart health, but you don't know anything about fucking hearts. It's like, before you start being paranoid about the monster that could be under your bed, look under your bed. Is there a fucking monster there? If there's no monster under your bed, you're good. You don't have to worry about the monster in your bed. That's what blood works for. It's for looking under the bed. Well, there's a monster in my closet. Well, order the test that looks in the closet. Like, I'm worried about my kidney health. Okay, why? Because my creatinine's high. My doctor thinks that it's bad. It's like, who's your doctor? Is he a GP? I don't know what that is. It's like, okay, you probably don't have a very good doctor. That the correct test for testing the kidneys is cystatin C. Do you have cystatin C ordered? I don't know. Well, can you look at your own blood work and read it? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm looking at it. I don't see that on here. So they never tested your kidneys. Well, why did they say that my kidneys are bad? Because they misread it. They read your creatinine, which is a measure of how much muscle you damaged from high intensity training. Well, why do they think that's kidneys? Because the fucking fat fucks who go to them usually don't train to failure. So they've never seen elevated creatinine. Let me ask you this. Did you stop? Did it ever get better? Yeah, I stopped lifting weights and it got better. So let me get this straight. Your permanent kidney damage was reversed by not lifting. It never occurred to anyone that it was the lifting was making the value falsely positive, that the damage of the muscle resulted in more of the muscle leaking to the bloodstream. Wow, I never learned about that. It's like, there's no reason why you would have. You're not a doctor. But perhaps the person you're going to that is a doctor isn't actually a doctor. Maybe it's just a PA, a physician's assistant. Do you actually know what degree they have? Is it an MD? I don't know. So you're calling them doctor because why? They're in a white coat. They have a costume on that makes them look like a doctor. A PA pretending to be a doctor is just as stupid as the bad guys pretending to be cops. Summary: Turinabol is basically Dianabol. It's an equipoise molecule with a 4' carbon attachment, 17 methylated, so they can survive the liver because it's oral, 17 hydroxyl group, and then it has a double bond between 1 and 2 and between 4 and 5. So it's basically a D-ball, but it doesn't work like D-ball. It doesn't convert to estrogen. It doesn't convert to DHT. It doesn't convert to DHB. It doesn't, like a D-ball would theoretically. It doesn't, it's not as liver toxic. It's got strong androgen receptor binding affinity. It's very anabolic. It's an anabolic as testosterone. It's just not androgenic at all. It doesn't bind to progesterone. It doesn't bind to glucocorticoids. So it doesn't have any special features. It doesn't have any side effects except for liver toxicity. Obviously, it's an anabolic steroid. So if you take enough of it, you'd see the same side effects as like anabolic side effects. Make sure to click the link in the description box to have me help you.